Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and welcome to Goosejunkies, a brand new YouTube exclusive podcast where me and a bunch of other Goosebumps YouTubers get together and talk about Goosebumps and kids horror of the like. The panel you see here is going to be the panel pretty much in every single episode, and I'm going to start off with some introductions. If you don't know who I am, you clicked on my channel. I'm Goosebumps Completionist. I'm pretty much a big old man nerd, and I've been a lifelong Goosebumps fan. And I have here a very good YouTuber, Goosebumps for Dummies. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Alejandro. You can just call me Alexander if you like that. And I'm a decently large YouTuber who has a fearfully large obsession with Goosebumps.
Okay. All right. The next panelist, we have Spongy444. Why don't you go ahead and greet yourself, Spongy?
Hello, Spongy here. I'm mostly known for my blog where I do a lot of off-time light discussion, but I'm here on YouTube as well, as you all seen.
All right. Great to have Spongy on here, by the way. All right. We have next BD Horror. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, BD Horror?
Yo, community, it's the most handsome Goosebumps reviewer out there. How are y'all beautiful souls doing? I got to avoid the bill collector today to hop on the podcast with these goofballs, so tune in.
All right. And the last panelist for this video, we have Minnesota Goosebumps fan coming in from Minnesota. How are you doing tonight, Minnesota?
I'm doing good. My name is Bruce. I have the biggest collection in Minnesota and have a very small channel.
That's fine, right? We're a big community. Some of us are bigger fish, some of us are smaller fish, but hey, we all get along and we all talk to each other. That's what matters, right? All right. So for tonight's episode, the very first inaugural episode of Goosejunkies, we have a very exciting discussion to take place. We want to talk about what do we want to see in the new Goosebumps television show? You know, it's coming out on Disney Plus. At the time we're making this, what is it, guys? Like, it's coming out in like, what, 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah.
Should be like 2 a.m. or something that standard.
2 a.m.? I mean, we're getting very close to the wire. A lot of us have seen the trailers. We've seen the clips. We've seen all the Instagram bait. We're excited for this, right? I mean, who isn't at this point?
Man, it's gonna be... Man, it could be crazy.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to hear what y'all have to say first about this, but I'll throw it over to you, Bruce. Let's start with you. What do you expect?
I'm expecting that this will... I was first expecting when they announced like the first 5 books and like that first like teaser and trailer, I was expecting this to be like the Are You Afraid of the Dark series that is coming out. Well, came out. Very divisive. Not many people say they like it, and I didn't know at first. But now, as more and more keeps getting revealed, I have to say that this might be the best Goosebumps piece of media we have gotten since the 90s. I know. But the movies, they were pretty good. I actually liked the first one. I know. Some people don't. But I think this might even be better. If this takes the actual stories more seriously, has, I guess the movie had teens, but more like official actual teens, I think that this could be very like to the books. So yeah, I'm very excited. I think it'll actually be really good.
Okay. You know, I kind of agree, you know. I think that them going a more mature route is better than what the movies did. I mean, the movies were just kind of, you know, trying to be like the Jumanji reboot remake. And I feel like they went too family friendly with it and kind of disconnected themselves from the darkness of the books that could, you know, I'm not saying that every Goosebumps book is dark, but this new show definitely is something eerie. There's something about it, you know, you do have your goofy moments from the clips and the trailers, it looks like, but it looks more serious and it looks more... You know, they're trying to be more visceral and more in your face with this show. And some of the adult humor that I've heard too, you know, definitely makes it swing that it's not just trying to target itself towards kids, but also teenagers and adults too, which I'm very looking forward to that. So yeah, good point, Bruce. Anybody else? Passing it over to you, Alejandro. What do you expect or want out of the new Goosebumps TV show?
Okay, I want it to be, as everybody's wanting, a bit darker than the movies were. Obviously, the movies were a bit more comedic, than actually scary, or at least kids' horror level. So I'm hoping this is a bit more scary. And seeing that it is more targeted toward teenagers and young adults, it's seeming like this actually might be a bit scared movie. So I'm really hoping that's the case. I'm also hoping that the monsters aren't going to be absolutely terrible, because in the movies, I'll be honest, some of the monsters didn't even look the greatest. Like, I thought Fifi was just kind of plain, even if this literally supposed to be a vampire dog. But seeing her in the new show was great, even if she isn't look accurate still. So I'm very helpful for the monsters and the CGI in general, and it's a lot better. Even if I know the movies were good on that, but I don't think the monster designs, like the Ebon, it didn't look the greatest. It looked like old Yeti. So I'm hoping a bit more creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still kind of perplexed how they messed up Fifi twice, and technically a third time on the Brandon Dorman cover. Fifi's a black poodle,
And
they
then
made her
Goosebumps,
white 3 times.
and then the 2015 video game Fifi and White is very well. But you wait, watch Fifi.
They whitewashed Fifi 4 times now. They've gotten her wrong. I don't know why they keep doing that.
It is Fifi is described in black in the book, right? I don't.
Yeah,
remember.
she's black. Yeah, even on the cover. Well, she can't really tell, but she is black.
Well, even there was even a stranger one, which was I'm still shocked by this. What they did to the body squeezers, that is a crime, yo. Especially when the cover of Tim Jacobus is so popular, and you get these fish tank headed, bobble eyed aliens that look nothing like the body squeezers.
Yeah.
Those are the body squeezers?
Yes.
Yep.
I didn't know.
Bruce.
I didn't know they were the body squeezers. But what I did was I went on the wiki and I looked up the monster list for the movie, and they were listed as the body squeezers. So maybe it was revealed in that one handbook that they brought out, but that was crazy.
I thought they were from Zapped in Space.
Last time I read, they said body squeezers. So I think maybe it was in that guidebook that they came.
It was
out
in the
with.
guidebook too as the body squeezers.
Yeah, so maybe that's it then.
Yeah.
Hey Bruce,
Yeah,
try reloading your camera because it's going in and out right now.
Tell me if that.
All right, is that better?
Does it work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good. You're back.
All right.
All right, you're back. All right, cool. And it got rid of the other dummies, so I guess we're good now. All right, so let's pass it over to Spongy. Spongy, what are your expectations? What are you hoping to see out of this new show? I'm dying to hear from you about this.
Yeah, I got to get what if now. I was just really curious where totally it would go, and I will. Yeah, I'm definitely glad we're going more for more gear crowd, especially because even though Cody Bacon didn't need put one foot in the bill, so they could make any changes they want. But I'm glad we're going through, but for more gear crowd, and so big hope is that they do a good job with combining the ongoing mystery and the plot idea from the book, and they can change Garth going to go they want as long as they have enough of the fear of the throwing in there. A couple of choice and art interesting. Go on. I would call for something good, regardless of how or why good or whatever. That we can all be normal about how we walk our opinion, whoever it may be. So nothing super complicated there.
Yeah, does anybody have anything to add on that? I think that's some pretty valid wants. Just
I was going to say, I think that's a good point, is that not a lot of people talk about the mystery aspect, which I do think is commendable to the new show, because we do get, usually see a lot more mystery in Fear Street and those kind of R.L. Stine books. You don't get that often with Goosebumps. So the fact that they're kind of mixing that Fear Street element with Goosebumps might be interesting.
Yeah. We have that in Horrorland, where the mystery of why the kid could be invited to go. That did that sort of format before.
That's true.
Yeah, I think there might be some opportunity for all these, standalone episodes like Say Cheese and Die, Go Eat Worms. All these first 5 episodes will interconnect in some way, because we know the episode titles I mean, it seems like they're going to be telling kind of like an Arc One Horrorland story. You know, all these characters and all these popular monsters that are being used as plot devices matter somewhat by the end. And I like that because it adds a level of intrigue. It's like, okay, well, where are you going to go next? You know?
Yeah, which may I add, I like that much more than what I originally thought, where it would just be the whole show connected. You know, like all 5 monsters, first episode, second, you know. I like this a lot more with one episode mainly. It's kind of unknown if it'll be like all over the place, but hopefully one episode mainly covering one book. I don't know. Might be interconnected.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe like the Give Yourself Goosebumps, the episode that's titled that. Maybe that's the episode where we'll get like Fifi and maybe some Give Yourself Goosebumps monsters. Like that's just like there's so many opportunities that they can go down that I don't think we've seen from any of the shared clips in the trailers. Because why would they just show all their cards out on the table to begin with, right?
Yeah.
But you know, there's just so many unknowns. We have to get there when we get there. But I'm really excited that we see Fifi and some other monsters that aren't in the titles of the episodes per se. It kind of makes it more like, hey, they're actually making this a universe. Just they're not just picking books and just sticking with those. They're taking characters from multiple books and spreading them out. And that was one of my biggest concerns. But seeing Fifi helps me a little bit, you know, going into it. It's not just going to be, you know, an episode just about Go Eat Worms, and Go Eat Worms is going to, well, I don't know that, but and you know, it helps me think that, you know, they're putting a lot more effort and care than the movie did, because the movie was just trying to throw a bunch of monsters to the wall, you know, and they put some spotlight on a few of them. But this one, the ones they are sharing, they're going to get, you know, their time in the limelight. I like that.
Yeah. I think it's about time we should drift the conversation so we can keep it within a time frame. So, but does BD
Okay, all right. All right, let's drift it over to BD. Let's see what BD has to say. What do you want out of this new show?
So far, me and the show have had a love-hate relationship because obviously, first impression didn't go too well over. But I have to say that now I am getting swayed slightly, mostly because, first of all, I'm very excited about the Haunted Mask because we went from this bootleg Purge mask. Apparently, Carly Beth was robbing banks out here. And now we're actually going to be getting a cover accurate Haunted Mask according to the producer, which I'm happy. Even if that wasn't promoted in the trailers, the fact that that's confirmed gives me hope in the show again. Because if he would have just said the mask morphed, I would have still been hesitant. But saying that it's going to be like the cover, that's how I know they're at least matching with the source material. And I got to give a big shout out to this new show for doing Give Yourself Goosebumps, because that was a topic that the community has talked about for a long time, is how would they adapt Give Yourself Goosebumps? And even if it's going to be basically like an homage to the title with Fifi and maybe some other monsters, that is a huge step forward, and I super duper appreciate that. I like the dark tone so far. Well, so far from my expectations, I just hope that even if they're going to be going for a darker tone, just make it have good writing. Good writing, decent acting, connected together. As long as I can recognize it somewhat as Goosebumps, even if you take creative liberties, if it's good, I'm going to compliment it. And if it's bad, we'll see about that in a couple hours. So right now, excited, looking forward to it. Let's check it out.
Yeah, like I'm totally there with you with the Haunted Mask thing. That pissed me off when I saw that in the trailer.
Ooh.
Man,
Ooh.
I was, you know, I'm a die-hard Haunted Mask guy. I've always have been. And seeing that robber mask, that made me cringe internally. And then it was when it was confirmed on the episode title drop, you know, Instagram video, I was like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way they're going to be rolling with this. And I was legit pissed off until you shared that that producer thing, because if you didn't share that, I would have gone into this new show with like a strike one. I would have gone in with like sour grapes.
That was the
So,
biggest thorn in my toe, where I was just like, I'm excited for everything in the show. They tell us we're going to get Horrorland. Disney Plus doing Horrorland is exciting. I definitely appreciate that. We have Give Yourself Goosebumps. You have You Can't Scare Me getting adapted. You have all this great stuff. And then you get the iconic Haunted Mask. They make Slappy look great. They make the Cuckoo Clock look great. They make the camera look great. And then you got the Haunted Mask, which was like, that was the biggest oof that we were experiencing. So the fact that that's cleared up, I really don't have any big concerns going forward.
Yeah, but a lot when we call him that, a lot of cope. A lot of people went, no, it's coming up, it's out there. Mac when it was. There was a lot of
That's
copium
true.
being off that day.
People told me that. I think Michael Goosebumps fan told me, he said, wait, that might not be the Haunted Mask. And I was hoping that that might have been the case. But then we got the title drop on Instagram, got confirmed. But luckily it's good. Shout out to the producer. The producer saved the show. If you want to give flowers to somebody, he saved the show right there with that Instagram clip.
Yeah, he did. Because the marketing on this show, I think, was kind of handled mildly good, but kind of not. Because they try to bait us for the longest time, just showing that robber mask. And then the producer had to come and clear it up because there was so much consternation that the interviewers asked him, like, hey, what's going on with the haunted mask? If that's that big of an issue before the show even starts, you kind of already know you messed up in your marketing. You know, they should have at least teased that a little better. But nonetheless.
There have been more marketing than I expected. I thought Jeff Peter trailer been like nothing to account, but they've been drip feeding a little bit on Instagram, which I think is good.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'm the last. I kind of have a lot of common things with you all, but you know, when the trailer dropped, I was probably like a 6 out of 10 excited, and then when I saw the episode title drop, I was about a 7.5. Then after the haunted mask clear up, I'm about a 9 out of 10 excited. You know, I try to think about this show like going into it. I already know that it's not an anthology, but there's a cool setting. Point Lawrence, 1993 or whatever it is, 94. Sounds very intriguing. I like the setting. I like how cold it is. They're going to have snow in the show, so there's going to be a lot of atmospheric changes that grips me off the bat. That brings my intrigue. So it doesn't look like the show's going to be badly made. It doesn't look like there's going to be bad effects. So I guess my only expectation is good writing. If the writing is bad, you can't get invested into the characters, can't get invested into the story. Worst case scenario, the monsters are good, the fan service is good, but everything else is kind of a ugly duckling, right? But I'm just hoping that the writing carries these characters over and makes a brand out of it. So if we do get a season 2 with these same characters, we have some emotional investment into them, and we care about going into a second season. Right? We're not here just for the monsters; we're here for the characters. So that's basically my biggest expectation now. Is just I hope the character writing's good and the story that they created is something worthwhile. But yeah, everything else you guys have already brought up, like good monsters, good fan service, doing haunted mask justice. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I guess this is a good segue because they're dropping the first 5 episodes. All in a bunch. So this is kind of like, which one do we consider the first one? I guess the Sage Cheese and Die episode. That's like the very first pilot episode. So this is going to be the episode that they're setting up all these characters, or at least introducing them. I don't know how they're going to go about this, but I guess all 5 kind of count as the first batch that we need to experience. And I guess the marketing wants us to binge them all. So it makes me think back onto the previous shows and what came before it. How did these shows start, right? And Goosebumps, the original 90s show, started with probably the best episode, wouldn't y'all say?
Yeah.
I mean, started off with the Haunted Mask, 2-parter. Do y'all remember the first time y'all watched that episode?
Of course.
Yeah?
It's
Halloween.
On Halloween?
On Halloween.
And didn't it open your eyes to storytelling in like the kids' horror medium? Like, wow, they made something this great. I would think that all of us here think that the Haunted Mask 2-parter episode is amazing, right?
It has everybody.
Yeah, everybody, right?
There's no reason to say it's not.
And the fact that it's based on a book that is also universally loved is also special too for it. Right.
if you talk about the Goosebumps TV show, ask anybody. Ask your parents, ask your family members who were back during that era. They all always say the same thing. I remember the haunted mask. It's always the most iconic thing that they remember from the show.
When I was a kid, I probably remembered the outro to the episode the most. When Arl Stein's asking about his parents, like, "Hey, how'd you think of it? You see the hair all over the place?"
Yeah, yeah.
That was something that was always rent free in my head. But me and this episode and this story go pretty much way back. This was the first thing I ever experienced in Goosebumps. I was maybe like 1 or 2 years old when I can first visualize a memory of watching or experiencing Goosebumps. And coming back to it, I've seen this episode and read the book. I've at least read the book probably at this point 15 times in my life, but the episode I've seen over 100 times. And this is just fantastic from start to finish. I think who wrote the episode?
Okay, Rivera.
Yeah, Rivera. Yeah, he. I think he did a pretty decent job on the episode adaptation to from the book source. You know, I've always, you know, when I think about the Haunted Mask, even though I love the book, and I would say that the book and the episode are kind of like very even in a lot of ways for me. When I think of the Haunted Mask story, I always go to the episode first. Does anybody else do that too? Do you think about the book or the episode?
Episode
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
Especially
okay.
those mask effects. Oh,
Yeah,
I mean-
I think about the episode for the mask design. Even when I reread the book after a long time, I didn't imagine the haunted mask cover. I imagined it as the TV episode version when I was reading.
And
Yeah,
the mask design, imagine if that was the cover, just not like the flat mask, but like the one with the neck and like the skin, the similar look. Imagine how much scarier that would have been. Probably less iconic, but that would have petrified me as a child.
Terrible.
yeah.
I mean, the cover, I would have been scared to even buy the book. I would have just stared at it in my library and be like, "Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to read you. You know, I'll wait."
True.
But yeah, the Haunted Mask. I guess I'll throw it to BD first on this one. You can talk about the book, talk about the episode, kind of intermix discussion. What do you think about the Haunted Mask?
So, Haunted Mask, probably the most overrated story. No, I'm kidding. Haunted Mask is, without a doubt, to me, even if it's not my personal favorite, like it's at the top of my favorites, but it's not my very favorite. It's the most iconic story, hands down, because forget the whole thing about it being Stein's favorite story and the fact that he got it from his son not being able to take off the mask. The story resonates with everybody on multiple levels. First of all, it embodies the Halloween spirit. If you watch this on Halloween, there's no better special for any kids horror TV show to watch it on Halloween. Speaking of the next thing we cover after this, it's not touching Haunted Mask. But Haunted Mask clears it. You have the book, which came before. And when you read the book, it is probably one of the best character tales for Goosebumps. Carly Betts' character arc is fantastic. She's probably one of the most memorable characters. She gets a fleshed out story. You get real horror involving the idea of you becoming something you're not, experiencing these animalistic emotions, actual scares, and then the fact that the episode manages to bring out the emotion even more with the performances by the actors and actresses, and on top of that, the terrifying design of the mask. Yeah, it's the most iconic story. I mean, as much as people talk about it and it becomes abundantly the main thing in a conversation, I think it's one of the few things in this world that's actually worth the amount of stuff that people talk about. And I don't care what era it is. I don't think the Haunted Mask is ever gonna stop being timeless. So those are my thoughts.
Agreed.
Yeah, like the episode came out in late 1995.
Yeah.
So the episode's almost 30 years old. And it's still as iconic as the night it released. And what blows my mind is that the Goosebumps show started with this. I mean, this isn't like you know you're playing a waiting game. You get this in the back end of season one. No, they started off with this. They shot a bazooka, boom, into the kids horror medium, and you saw what happened to Are You Afraid of the Dark a year later.
Yeah.
They folded for a little while. I mean, Haunted Mask is just so iconic, man. I mean, the book, you have Carly Beth. What I like about the book is that it's third person. Nobody ever brings that up, but the fact that Stein was able to characterize in third person the way he did in that book is very fascinating and impressive. Because normally, when I read Goosebumps books, I expect a great monologue, but he did not need to rely on that in that story. He characterized that girl. He put her through so much trials and tribulations, and all the extra scenes you get in the book. Some people, I know some of you might think it's filler, but it makes you hate Chuck and Steve. It makes you hate them, and it makes you root for her to get her revenge. You want her to grow and step out of her shell and be somebody else. But that's also where it comes to make the story whole. She experiences that, and then now she's like, no, I love myself. I don't need this. I don't need to be who I'm not. And that's why the story's so universal. You put this story up against anything from any other kid's horror medium, and nothing will be as timeless as this. I will tell you that now. This kind of transcends Goosebumps. Like, as the poster child, like, this can be up there with like Roald Dahl and his work, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or The Witches. It could be by itself and be fine. I can't say that about every single Goosebumps book, though. The episode is pretty much a faithful adaptation, similarly iconic and great on its own as well. I mean, there's really nothing you can criticize about it by some small things, but we'll get into that very shortly. Because I want to pass the conversation off to the next person. I'm going to pass it over to Bruce. What do you think about the Haunted Mask episode book?
So I'll first go over the book just because I think it's less remembered. Let me just tell you, I totally agree with BD here. Not my favorite, although the second one is. Let's not get into that. But it's definitely up there. It's in my top 5. It is, in my opinion, the best. Not my favorite. Not most people's favorites, but the best. It has the best writing, best characters. I'd even say, although it's kind of hard to decipher if it actually is a villain, I'd say it is. I'd say it's the best villain. I know some people might be going, what? Slappy? Any of these? I think it is. I think that it's one of the few books where I can come back to it whenever I want. Like, even though it's set place in Halloween, I can come back to it I think the last time I read it was just this summer, like June. So yeah. And then with the episode, it's even better. The acting, probably the best acting in the series. Dummy 3 and Haunted Mask 2 also kind of fight with that. But yeah, it's perfect acting for kids' TV, in my opinion, especially for some of the first horror media. And like Completionist said, yeah, I didn't even realize that Afraid of the Dark was soon to be gone after Goosebumps premiered. And from what I know, the book sales actually went up by a large margin as soon as that episode came out. So props to the producers and everybody involved. It is perfect, in my opinion. And yeah, let's pass this to Alex here.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think about the Haunted Mask book and episode?
Okay. Once again, I have to completely agree with BD, just like Bruce. Absolutely everything that spot on. Fantastical story, great characters, awesome design for the mask. I mean, it's just a basic Halloween mask, but it's so iconic now. And honestly, it's not even that basic. It's kind of creepy. Overall, I prefer the episode over the book in some ways. In most ways, actually. More because I like seeing the story more played out, even if they did cut some scenes in there that I really liked in the book, like the science fair segment. The episode, first off, lots of great stuff. It's always great to see a book played out, and of course, book accurate for the most part. Even if, like I said, scenes are missing from the book, and the episode actually added a few scenes. And I really, really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the episode overall. It's a great story. I think everybody universally likes it except that one guy I talked to on Discord the other day who said he hated the haunted mask. Shout out to you, yeah, seriously. Episode, I can't say much more about it. Everybody's already said basically everything. It's fantastic. The book I prefer a little bit though. Not only is it what started the episode and the only reason it exists, and a sequel with an also awesome episode. Not only that, but it is Stein's favorite, one of my top 10 books. Probably one of everybody's top 10 or 20 so books. And universally, besides Night of the Living Dummy, or Night of the Living Dummy 2 Free, and Monster Blood, this is one of the most memorable titles in the entire series. And I bet if I walked outside, who's like 30 or 40, they'll probably remember this title. They'll probably instantly know it if I just say, hey, what's your favorite Goosebumps book? Or hey, what comes to mind when you think of Goosebumps? So overall, extremely iconic, and the book is overall, like everybody keeps saying, great, fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. You know how I know when an episode is iconic? When people confuse things that happen in the episode to what happened in the book. Have you ever noticed that? There's certain episode phenomenons, and Haunted Mass is kind of one of them. Like in the book, you know the iconic, well, I guess the iconic graveyard scene with Chuck and Steve, where they're hanging out, and Carly Beth decides to go in there and hide her head bust. That doesn't happen in the book. She kicks it like under a tree.
Yeah.
And she comes back and gets it. I mean, the stuff that the episode adds, tries to make some more lighthearted moments. But I also think that's also at the cost of what the book was setting up with Chuck and Steve, making them more mean, making them just, more pestering than they were. In the episode, they're a little more lovable. Wouldn't y'all say? Like, aren't like Chuck and Steve a little more likable than the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
book they're kind of more so bullies, but they get that charm in the episode more.
Yeah, I think Spongy said Chuck's actor Amos Crowley, he steals the show in every scene he's in. I mean, whenever he's on screen, he's just eating up the scene. He's just having fun. But Catherine Long, who plays Carly Beth, and Catherine Short. I've always found that funny, that Sabrina and Carly Beth's names are long and short, and they have the same first name. Blows my mind. But Carly Beth, whenever I think of Carly Beth, isn't it always going to be Catherine Long? Forever. No matter who they put in the role.
And we gotta give a double shout out to Catherine because for those of you who don't know, here's a little bit of trivia. That scene where she eats the worm, she actually ate a worm in the episode. Dedication. That is straight up dedicated to the role right there.
Yeah. And I think that was a surprise too. The producers didn't even tell her. Like they just let her eat it. And that's mean, but I mean it's for the sake of art.
From my
I heard the
understanding,
opposite.
they wanted it to be fake, but she like, we need to be more real. Her idea to begin with.
Oh, okay, it was her idea. All right. See, even more respect to Catherine Long on that. I mean, good for her.
And apparently they had to do like 10 takes of it.
Now, do you think Justin Long actually ate real worms in this new show?
Yeah.
I hope. We're hoping.
He's still the GOAT, but no way.
No, he's a poser.
It looked like he totally became a wallet for real and tough.
Celebrity interview. You're like, so did you know Catherine Long actually ate 10 worms? And then he's like, I don't know.
I don't know. That has to be false. No, it's true. And Justin Long over here is eating CGI, eating green screen.
Boo.
Boo. All right, so got a little sidetracked. Let's put it over to Spongy. Spongy, what do you think about the Haunted Mask? I know you love the Haunted Mask, the book and the episode, but I just want to hear your thoughts on it as a pilot episode.
Yeah. Great starting going off with that because it was already a thought favorite from our time, and it came the role in favorite. And it kind of goop up because it is more thematically driven. It has compared to most books where it's a story, a real storytelling of actual moral that kids can keep in mind. And the episode pushed the emotional aspect in the book, but the episode go further with it because of music and some moment with the mom and such. So it kind of like elevate the story further, and I feel like that's what the book already a classic, but the episode really could give people deeper connection with it, and definitely what helped boost that book, which is great to be legendary. Even people who aren't in Goosebumps can like get into the story and find something they find within it, and then it's not something you see very often. But Arlstein clearly put a heart and soul into it, and the show definitely respected that and able to elevate it further, and that's how we get what we do. And I think the episode is ultimately better because of a few things they do, like removing some filler scenes and like fleshing out the backstory. But yeah, I can't dispute Han Mac as a classic. It really is, especially the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you and Bruce on this. I mean, it was so iconic when it came out that Fox Kids commissioned. I think it was Fox Kids. You know that reprint from the original era when they had like the big purple font on the haunted mask with the mask included inside. I think that was because of the episode, right? I think that's what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
when that came out, it was just the book sales enormously spiked because the episode was so good. And then season 1, followed. I mean, Haunted Mask definitely set the precedent for storytelling, and I think kids horror medium. And I'm not trying to like bash Are You Afraid of the Dark here for this. They do have a handful of episodes that have more themes and thematic storytelling and more whole feeling characters and universal messages. But Goosebumps just they perfected it off the bat. It took Dark how many seasons to even get it right? Like 2 or 3 before they had Shiny Red Bicycle or something like that. I mean, it took maybe Dream Girl from season 2, but I mean, Haunted Mask just took the theme and ran with it. Being yourself, living in your own shoes. To a kid that's going through puberty, kid that's going through hard times in life, 12, 11, 10 years old. What Carly Beth's going through is the harsh reality. Middle school kids suck. They're bullies. They're mean. They do horrible things to kids. And Carly Beth, she's that character that we can all live vicariously through. Like, what if we had this opportunity to get some revenge? What if we had some opportunity to step out from our own comfort zone in our own skin and be something else? And that's how I've always pictured her character. Like, I'm living vicariously through her every time I'm watching the episode or reading the book. It's so effective at grabbing me and putting me into Carly Beth's shoes. And I think that's why it's amazing, and that's why it's the most remembered episode. Because now I can't tell you that every other episode does that. But this episode just hits you in all the right emotional places and takes you to those zones that you need to be mentally to see what the story's telling you. Now, that is overlooking some goofy things in the story too. If we're being honest with ourselves, Haunted Mask does have some goofy things going for it. Starting off with like the wonkiness of the mask and how that works, the origin of the mask, even like. I think what was the book's origin? I can't remember off the top of my head. I think Spongy would know this. Spongy, do you know the book's origin?
Yeah, the shop here took like he made it in the lab, the Macreevil Atlas. They don't go into deep detail. I don't even remember everything in the book, but I know it's fairly vague, a little questionable.
I know the episode tried to allude that it was a lab because they had the lab tables with all the beakers and chemicals, kind of off to the side, but they weren't trying to make that the focal point because I think that would have been confusing. But I think the collector's cat books said he went even further. He had a chemical accident, and then it changed his face, and then he started messing around with like science or magic or something, trying to make masks. But then they just every time he wore them, they turned ugly, so he kept having to like rip them off or something. And the episode, it I don't know why it skims over it so much, but the guy like Carly Beth goes in the room and he's like, "Oh, they're not for sale." And later on, when she comes back with the mask on, he's like, "Oh, these are one masks I used to wear," and he keeps them more vague, right? And then the masks, all of us, because of the vagueness, it kind of comes off sillier when the masks rise up because of the power of Halloween. and they're floating around. Ooh, following Carly Beth into the graveyard. Yeah.
They do go into detail about how he had like a deformed face and he couldn't get that, but he tried to improve himself, but because of his own bitterness and self-loathing, they just kept turning ugly. And they show his fake he had is not a real fake, and he threatened to show it to Carly Beth, and that is an effective moment to deepen things a bit with the shopkeeper.
Yeah, it's more thematic, I think, in the episode because I don't know if they emphasized the fact that it was like an accident how he first came about it. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the green mask the first mask he made?
And that probably is the main one we get.
Yeah. But
the episode's more vague about it. So even when it's the big reveal, it's not too out of the realm of understanding. But I remember when I read the book, it very clearly said that he made them in a laboratory, and then they all of a sudden start floating and start chasing Carly Beth. So I'm like, wait, you're experimenting in a laboratory. Why are they floating?
Hey, for all the the kind of messy things the story does, I think I give a thematic pass to that even still,
Yeah.
because it is trying to still add themes, especially in the episode. Like Spongy said, you can kind of overlook the vagueness because it fits into the themes more. But if you're looking at it in the literal sense, you're like, the power of Halloween sounds like some plot convenience.
Yeah. Plus, you can always make the argument it's called the haunted mask, so technically we can't complain. So sorry.
Yeah.
I've always thought that the haunted mask isn't even accurate as a title. I mean, it should be called like the lab accident mask.
Yeah, the title could underline. No one really talked about that.
Feels kind of shoehorned in, but other than some small things, and the episode, I'm not gonna lie, it does have some cringe, but I'll save that discussion aside because we have to get into the next episode, which I think is even more cringier to talk about. All right. Oh boy, the inaugural episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark came out 1990? It came out in 1991 as a pilot in like October. But in its natural airing order, it's actually the 4th episode of the original season 1 from 1992 onward, right? The episode is Tale of the Twisted Claw. And there's like 2 versions of this, supposedly. There's a pilot version. That version was the one that aired in 1991, I think. And then the regular show version aired in 1992. And this one is also another Halloween story. And I think we all watched it, as of yesterday, we all sat down and watched it on Discord, and we had some varying reactions to it. So I guess I'll start with Spongy first, because I think Spongy has the biggest outlier opinion about the Tale of the Twisted Claw. Yeah. Spongy, what do you think about this episode? And be brutal and honest as best as possible.
Okay. I feel the episode is fine. It's like good, not like that good, because it's pilot-y, heck. That work out the kinks, but I do feel like the picking is definitely a wonky aspect of how we thought like that point to it and a few other things. But it got some fun to it. Some big goofiness that kind of helped make it more entertaining and a few decent moments. Nothing like crazy great, but nothing too. It's a basic as you can sort of get with the story, but it had enough like charm that I think it could get too good, if not that good. It's not like great, but perfectly workable for what we're looking for. And I think it could better first episode than the Phantom Cab, which is what they aired at the real first episode. So that's what I think.
Yeah, the Phantom Cab, it's a step down from this, I would say. But like, this episode isn't that big of a step up either. It's basically just the Monkey's Paw retold, but in like a family-friendly lens. And I get what you're saying, right? It's the first episode. They're going with a pilot for this. You can definitely tell, even with the cold open, that it's a little bit different from the rest of the first season, right? They're trying to tread the waters to see what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. So they play a little safe here. And I don't knock the concept. I think the concept is fine. It's tried and true. It's been done plenty of times. It's just the execution and the acting. It's very goofy. It's very, it's rushed in areas that probably shouldn't be rushed, especially dealing with the 3 wishes. That's all I'll say on that for now. But yeah, I do get being more fair on it because it is the first. It pretty much was the story that kicked off the golden age of kids horror, and that might be kind of hard to believe, and some people don't want to admit that, but it started the golden age in 1991. This birth Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was the second biggest competitor, or I guess the first biggest competitor to Goosebumps, and Goosebumps came after it, technically. So, you know, I mean, without it, who knows if the show would have got picked up? Because obviously the pilot did well to get picked up. So,
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, it set the course of history. So it's an important piece of kids' horror media, but is it memorable? That's the question, right? And I'll leave. I'll have that be the segue to Bruce, right? Bruce, you are
Oh.
brand new eyes onto Are You Afraid of the Dark. You have not watched any of these episodes, and we had you watch this. As this being your first Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, is this a memorable tale for you? Are you going to take this for the rest of your life and hold it dearly?
Before I get into my answer, which is pretty obvious, let me just tell you, when we were first deciding, yeah, this is kind of like the Haunted Mask. We can compare both pilots, both Halloween. Everything was like spot perfect, you know. And then I was starting to notice while watching it that I was like, okay, that's a trope. That's a cliche. That's another trope. And it just kept building up to the point where I was like, what I thought it was I didn't think it was much of like, I know it wasn't supposed to be like this, but it wasn't really supposed to be like the Haunted Mask as it was be careful what you wish for. Like, I'd even say like Return of the Mummy with like the mummy hand, kind of basically the same thing. I don't know about Monkey's Paw, but like I kept getting reminded of Goosebumps, so you can tell there is a similarity here, but compared to the Haunted Mask, this has no comparison. I thought that as my first episode watching this series, very disappointed. I have heard tons of things. I mean, so much that most kids in my school actually have watched this show, like, before. I'm not saying the whole show, but they have talked about it. Even some of my friends who don't like horror, which is really saying something. So I was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. I cannot believe I'm finally watching this. And I didn't know they were on YouTube. So sat down, I watched it, and thought it was about the most middle of the road Halloween story, at least, thing that I have ever watched, read, experienced. Very disappointed. I'm excited to get to ones like Dead Man's Float, though, which are timeless classics to most fans. And yeah, who knows? Maybe another episode we'll talk about that one. I don't really know what to say. I'm not too excited to watch more, but hopefully those ones will be better. Not very happy with it, though. It was very boring, too. I thought not much was happening. Not much made sense, either. A lot of time cuts, like completion acts. Actually, explain the running scene, please. That's my end, but...
So the running scene, they get the monkey's paw thing from the lady that they pranked with shaving cream in the beginning of the episode. And I don't even know if that's set on Halloween or the day before Halloween, but they just randomly go up to this lady and spray shaving cream in her face. Then they come back later with their trick or treat outfits on to ask for candy from her, and she gives her them this paw. And what's the boy's name? Kevin, the friend of what's his name? Dougie. He takes the paw the next day at school, sees this guy in the hallway, and he's like, "Oh, I need to win this race." So he makes a wish, like alluding to that something bad's going to happen to the kid. And all the kid does, he's running and he trips and hurts his knee. And like, and mind you, this is set in around Halloween. These kids are out on November 1st or November 2nd wearing t-shirts and shorts, running out there doing a jogging competition. Yeah, no, they're wearing sweatpants and like sweatshirts. You can tell that they weren't really filming it in the colder months. It's kind of badly done, right? But yeah, that's the running scene where that came from. The kid was just using it to get some leverage in the race to win a medal. kind of dumb.
I'll let others
So-
speak too, but I'll actually also say, now that you said that, yeah, even more stuff just confuses the living heck out of me. I mean, why would they go back to the house after they just put shaving cream all over that woman's face? I think they like maybe even like sprayed silly string all over their car. I mean, really? And then she's like, come in, come in. At that point, they already ran away when they did the prank. You might as well just run for your life. I mean, nothing good is going to happen. You've showed your faces twice now. It's so idiotic, and it feels like maybe someone saw it, didn't know it actually happened, and then another person who didn't know the rest was even happening just picked up from there. Really, really disappointed.
So you would say that the pilot of Are You Afraid of the Dark was not a good pilot to start with.
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. So let's move it over to Alejandro, Goosebumps for Dummies. What is your opinion on the pilot of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tale of the Twisted Claw.
Okay, initially, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I thought, initially, we're going to get to my new opinion that I kind of thought about over the past day. Initially, I thought it was pretty damn good. The only things I didn't really like about it were the acting and the fact that it was Monkey's Paw. Again, the most stereotype book or episode of any kind for children's horror at this point. Be careful. I think we've had that like twice or thrice in the Goosebumps series. Now we have this. Anyways, it's kind of stereotype. Those were my only nitpicks. Now I'm going to give it like a 6. Over
Ooh.
A 2.5? A 2.5 grade drop. Okay, let's hear this. Let's hear why.
Morning, whilst on Discord, talking, doing stuff. And of course, before we even did this, and when I was doing other stuff, basically all day I've been thinking about this episode besides the podcast that we're doing right now. The more I thought, the more I realized, oh god, this is actually not that good. It's still kind of flat, not absolutely terrible. Definitely not the worst episode of anything I've ever seen. And there's definitely worse The Dark episodes out there. Don't even get me started on a few. Some of them really suck. Like, I'm not going to give examples. I can't remember half the series right now. It's just, compared to other Halloween specials that we've gotten, and this is a series premiere Halloween special. For example, Haunted Mask, another series premiere Halloween special. What the hell was this? The only thing I like about now was the overall concept of Monkey's Paw on Halloween. I've never seen that before until now. And, of course, the wishing. I like the wishing stories. I do like this Monkey's Paw again. I do not like that part. I wish the wishing stories got more creative instead of just genies and magical objects. Those are the only things I really like. Basically, everything else is either really just mid or just terrible. The running scene, for example, I thought it was just so stupid. Completely stupid. And why a running scene with the race? It was so... Why? And then, of course, the climax was kind of... The acting was terrible. And the more I think about it, the worse it gets. Think about Laughing in the Dark. I know BD Horror made a review on that recently. But, like, times it by 2 for the acting. It's twice as bad. Terrible. Absolutely.
Yeah, very stiff acting. I mean, they cannot act. I mean, anytime they're put in a sense of peril, they just have a flat face. Like, they're just staring. They're not reacting with their mouths or their eyes.
Fine.
They're just staring blankly at the actors in front of them. You could tell that they're nervous. This is probably like their first acting gig, but it's pretty atrocious. I think the Phantom Cab actors are worse though. I'll put that out there. Easily the worst acting from season 1 goes to them. But yeah, the acting here was not that good. And I like that you brought up the climax here because I don't even think the episode had a real climax. They were just fighting over the paw in the living room, and they make an accidental wish. And the whole scariest part about that whole scene, they're staring out the window and they're thinking that the ghosts of these dead people that they just accidentally wished away are coming. And we don't even see them come. You know, it's this is one of those things. I think DJ McHale for season 1 was trying to go for more cerebral horror. He wasn't trying to be overt with it. He wasn't trying to show monsters that much. He was trying to scare kids by what they can imagine. And it backfired. Hey, you got some distortion going on. Okay, it's fixing.
Can everybody see me?
No.
No.
I hear you.
But anyways, like I was saying, I just feel like you don't feel the stakes near the end of the episode. You just don't feel it. You don't see the dead people coming out of the car, and the conclusion that these kids have, like, is so forced in there. They're just wrestling around, panicking, and then they just get this bright idea. Hey, why don't we just wish that none of this ever happened? Would that be your first thought if you're in a panic within all this stuff happening within a span of like 3 minutes? Are you just going to be like, oh, let's just wish to go back to before all this happened? Who does that? It's so cliche. Like Bruce was saying, it's just cliche tropes piling
That's
on
the
top
smart
of
thing to
each other.
do. Is it the right thing to do?
Well, I mean, I guess it's playing it safe, but it's not really entertaining. I mean, you could make it more fun and, ingenuitous, but it's fine. I mean, that's all I really have to say about it. I want to hear what BD has to say because I know he's going to be spitting some real fire with this. What did you think about the pilot of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I already know, since you've watched like half the show, you have some strongly worded opinions about Are You Afraid of the Dark already, but let's hear what BD has to say. I think he's about to give it a little smackdown here.
You know what time it is. When that doo-doo garbage arrives, I'm here to talk about it. This episode, yo. First of all, before y'all go like, oh, it's a pilot, I've seen half of this show. I've seen the beauties, the glorious things in this show. I've seen The Secret Admirer. I've seen Night Shift. I've seen Dead Man's Float. And then I've seen Virtual Pets. I've seen Gruesome Gourmets. I've seen the worst of the worst. This is not the worst of the worst. However, oh my God, this is a terrible, weak pilot, dude. These guys are being generous. This is a terrible pilot, y'all. Let me run down some of the most horrible stuff in this episode. That's not to say this episode entirely as just horrible. There's some terrible stuff. This episode opens up with the Grim Reaper sleep paralysis demon over a kid. And it goes into a loop dream sequence, in which case the kid's screaming. And that's how you get introduced to the Midnight Society. Then you get to the actual episode. These kids are harassing this old woman. Spray shaving cream in her face. And this is what started breaking me down. They, like Bruce said, they go back to her house the next day. And one of them doesn't go with any disguise on. He shows his entire face with no distortion, no mask. And one of them is wearing a mask. And he takes it off to show to the lady. What? You imagine you're robbing a bank, all right? You're robbing a bank. You're about to get away with it. You're almost out the door. And you look at the bank vault camera and you just take off the ski mask. That is one of the stupidest, whoever made that decision for the episode, terrible. Next thing you know, as Completionist mentioned, at the end of the episode, you potentially have something good going on. You have this dead grandpa scene. Somebody may be arising and coming back. No, that doesn't happen. You get a doorbell, like you get some knocking on the door, and it ends off there. You know what you get instead? You get a biker gang on Halloween with some of the worst actors I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I don't know what Walmarts they be grabbing these people from. I don't know what Goodwill that they're hiring over there. I've seen, like, Salvation Army got to get some better acting talent because these guys cannot act for the life of them. And you got to sit through that for how many minutes? And then you got the running scene. There's a key part of the running scene that these guys have not talked about. First of all, we're going to ignore the fact that the claw has this terrible visual effect where it turns greener than Completionist shirt right now, out of nowhere. These guys wish, or at least one of them wishes for the him to beat in the running contest. You know how it happens? The best friend is watching his friend run on the track, and a dog, a shepherd, magically appears behind a tree, trips the guy, breaks his ankle, and then he runs over him and wins the race. Y'all, this is not the worst thing I've ever seen, but my God, it's a terrible pilot. It's all over the place. There's no plot. There's no sense of morals. There's no acting talent. The ending is a super corny, like, oh, everything is actually all right. It's terrible. It's vague. There's nothing to it. You get the sense that this character that's not relevant at all throughout the entire story managed to mastermind everything. Again, like Completion has said, these kids randomly decide what's the best wish to do. These are some of the dumbest kids I've ever seen on Earth. There's no way they would have came up with that by the end of the episode. It's forced in there. It's shoehorned in there just for the sake of it being there. And if you want to compare this to Haunted Mask, it's not even a competition. All right. If we're talking about Shaquille O'Neal being the Haunted Mask, this is your local high school guy that's always on bench. There's no way this is competing with the Haunted Mask. All right. And that's all I got to say. 5 out of 10. And that's not changing anytime soon.
I gotta add. So the acting, right? So
Oh my God.
there is plenty of Goosebumps episodes where the acting is just god awful. I'll admit.
Mm-hmm.
True.
But I might be biased here. I don't know. You can kind of see the charm in it. I don't know why. I'd find a little bit of charm. I can accept it. With
Depends on
this,
the
it's
episode.
like it feels like it's trying to be something very dark. Like Goosebumps is just trying to be like funny versus dark at times. This feels like it's actually trying to like do something, and the acting is not complimented at all. It's
The
really
only
rough.
thing worse than this is Phantom Cabin. I can't wait till you watch that episode. We're gonna save that. But I promise y'all, I don't know where they find these people. I'm pretty sure any of us could get on Are You Afraid of the Dark back in the day, and we would have done better than these guys. Ezekiel down the block who sells bootleg DVDs, he can get on Are You Afraid of the Dark and do a better job. These guys have no semblance of acting, which is why, again, you got complain about Chuck and Steve all you want. They did a million times better than these two. And what's sad is this came before Haunted Mask. And worst of all, I didn't highlight this. There's a specific joke about one of the guys, I don't know if it was Dougie or whoever, dressing up as a bum, which is a joke that's referenced in the Haunted Mask book, which means that most likely, due to some similarities, Haunted Mask was probably inspired by this even a tiny bit in regards to certain direction things. And the level of quality is night and day. So I got to give props. This inspired Haunted Mask in some regard, but man, Goosebumps, no wonder Are You Afraid of the Dark was on its last limbs for a little bit. This is not it.
All right, guys, I have to go.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Okay,
we'll
you
see
see.
you later. And let's go ahead and wrap up the discussion. So I think B. Horror said it best, right? So, when it comes to the Haunted Mask versus the Tale of the Twisted Claw, I really think there's no competition here. It's just, Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was the first of its kind. This is before Goosebumps, so I can let a little slide with this episode, right? They're testing the water. They're trying to get optioned. Dinar, whoever the company is that produced the show or the first season, they didn't. I don't know if it got picked up by Nickelodeon at that point, but I think it was the pitch pilot, right? So, it's an important piece of history. Without Are You Afraid of the Dark in the Goosebumps competition, it would not have been the same, right? So it's important, but you have to separate the iconography from the episode. You cannot put a label on this and say, hey, look, this is an important piece. No, you have to judge it by itself. By itself, it's mid. It's a 6 out of 10 all day, 3 out of 5. it's a meh. Like, if I'm being really honest, it doesn't get too much wrong. It doesn't get too much right. It's not good. It's not bad. Haunted Mask, iconic. One of the best stories in the whole medium, bar none. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, all day. Book and episode. Guilty pleasure on the flaws. And that's where I'm at with it. Does everybody else agree?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, if this wasn't the pilot, I'd even go as far as say it's a 4 out of 10. It's rough. It really is. I was sitting here last night and I was just kind of going, what? The whole episode. So yeah,
Yeah.
5 out of 10 for me.
I was pretty sad as well because, again, I've experienced the great things that Dark can do. And for anybody who's not checked out some of the best episodes in Are You Afraid of the Dark, please go do so. All right, do not trust this pilot to reflect the entire show. There is fantastic episodes that is arguably better than a lot of Goosebumps stories out there, surprisingly. But yeah, man,
Okay, well,
Haunted Mask blows this out of the water. So yeah, in terms of who had the strongest start, Goosebumps is winning this war all day, at least for now.
100%.
100% on the pilot. And what did you think, Spongy? I mean, I can already assume, but you, Haunted Mask.
well, clearly Harmac is nothing compared to the Claw. No, not stupid. Not that. I got bad tape, but not that bad. But I took the Claw perfectly fine and good for what it can have enough. I can came fine, but I'm like, it clear that until the Claw that tape work out with Harmac, they really charged up and like blew the wall. Especially Kent Better had a corporate to work with, and they took attention of the book, so we need to really get people guided to sell more books. So we had to make the best thing. Look at prime time special on Fox. So we nail it out of the park with the Haunted Mac episode. Put the car cute, I guess.
Yeah. I totally see that. Like with Haunted Mask, they're like, okay, we gotta make sure this is the best thing ever because we have books writing on this. For Are You Afraid of the Dark, they're just trying to get options, so they're picking a safe thing to try to get option with. It's not night and day comparing the two almost, because one has tremendous level of quality and one is tremendous level of safe, and it's
Yeah,
they don't really
definitely.
compute together.
Yeah.
They don't really even compare. It's kind of like if you I don't know how to put this. If you want to compare like an NBA team from America to like a professional basketball team from Venezuela, right? You know, who has more stacked talent there? I mean, I'm just saying. I think I'm gonna take my bet on the USA team all day before I would take a bet on a Venezuelan professional basketball team. That's literally what it feels like.
And plus,
Yeah.
even with the iconicness, I mean, Haunted Mask, the story is based off of something that Stein actually experienced, so it hits home for him. It's an original story, so it actually resonates with a lot of people. Y'all, the monkey's paw has been done since the beginning of the Big Bang. All right, this is an overdone, safe story. As good as you may make it, or as good as the potential is, it cannot reach iconic levels if it's not an original story.
All right, so I guess that puts our running tally of, in terms of at least Goosebumps versus Are You Afraid of the Dark? Goosebumps is currently 1. Are You Afraid of the Dark is 0. All right, so that ends episode 1. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to give a second for everyone to plug in their social media and their YouTube pages. Spongy, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about your blog and your YouTube account, or wherever the best place to reach you is.
Yeah, I'm Bungie444 on Mo Playing. On Twitter, 445 could come on again. But Twitter, 445. And then I have my blog at Take the Bungie on WordPress. But on YouTube, I'm Bungie444. Yeah, so I'm basically everywhere. But look on my main place, think I hang out. Go ahead and check me out if you want more crazy take on Kid Quarter.
All right, nice. All right, Bruce, where can we find you at?
You can find me on YouTube and Instagram. Same name, Minnesota Goosebumps fan.
All right, Minnesota Goosebumps fan. And BD Horror, where can we find you at?
You can see this handsome mug on BD Horror. Hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. It's free. People like free stuff in America. Go hit it.
All right. And of course, I'm Goosebumps Completionist. You can find me on Twitter /X, whatever it's called, GB Completionist. I am also on YouTube. you're currently watching my channel, if you're watching this. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Go subscribe to all these people. Go give them likes on all their things. Go ahead and give them a follow as well. But yeah, stay tuned for another episode. I think we're going to try filming this next week. We're going to do episode 2 on the first 5 episodes of the new Goosebumps show. We're going to give you unadulterated reactions to all of these episodes, episode by episode, and give our thoughts. And then we're going to compare them to their former counterparts from the original Goosebumps show. So you're going to hear what our thoughts are, which we like more from the old show potentially, what we like from the new more potentially. And then we're going to end it off with the new Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps war that's going on. We're going to be discussing that and giving our opinions on which one is doing better at this current point and which one maybe has a better modern show. You know, the sky's the limit with the discussion, but we'll get there when we get there. Thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye. Have a good night, y'all.
Bye, guys.
Deuces.